Something touched my shoulder. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My eyes were wide open, but I couldn't move a single muscle. For 3 terrifying minutes, I was trapped in my own body while something dark loomed over me. This wasn't a nightmare. This was sleep paralysis, and what I discovered about surviving it could save you from the same horror. Recent 2025 studies show that roughly 20% of people will experience this at least once in their lifetime, with rates climbing to 28% among students. But there are proven strategies backed by sleep science that can help you break free faster than you ever thought possible. To understand how to escape this terror, you first need to understand what's happening inside your brain when it occurs. The science behind your frozen body. Your brain creates a biological straitjacket every single night, and most of the time, you never know it exists. During REM sleep, your brain stem releases a flood of chemicals that shut down your voluntary muscle movements completely. This paralysis system evolved to keep you safe from acting out violent dreams, but when it malfunctions, you wake up trapped inside your own body. The pons, located at the base of your brain, controls this entire process. When you enter REM sleep, specialized neurons in the pons release neurotransmitters that block the signals that would normally travel from your brain to your muscles. Your diaphragm keeps working so you can breathe, and your eye muscles remain active, but everything else becomes completely immobilized. This shutdown is so complete that even if someone tried to physically move your arm during deep REM sleep, your muscles wouldn't respond. Sleep paralysis occurs when this chemical paralysis system doesn't turn off at the right time. Your brain cycles through different sleep stages throughout the night, transitioning from light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep roughly every 90 minutes. During a normal awakening, the neurotransmitters that cause paralysis get reabsorbed, and your motor neurons start firing again. But sometimes, this reabsorption process gets delayed or interrupted. The neurotransmitter imbalance creates a terrifying biological contradiction. Your reticular activating system, which controls consciousness, becomes fully active. You can think clearly, process sensory information, and form memories. Meanwhile, your motor neurons remain flooded with paralysis-inducing chemicals, keeping your muscles locked in place. This creates 2 separate states of consciousness operating simultaneously in your brain. Brain imaging studies show that during sleep paralysis episodes, your prefrontal cortex lights up with activity while your motor cortex remains suppressed. The visual cortex also shows unusual patterns, which explains why hallucinations accompany most episodes. Your brain is essentially stuck between 2 different operating systems, creating a neurological traffic jam that can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes. Most sleep paralysis episodes last between 1 and 3 minutes, though they feel much longer to the person experiencing them. The duration depends on how quickly your brain can clear the excess neurotransmitters from your system. Factors like stress hormones, sleep deprivation, and certain medications can slow this process down, extending the episode. Your brainwave patterns during sleep paralysis show a unique signature that researchers can identify on EEG machines. Instead of the typical alpha waves associated with relaxed wakefulness, your brain produces a mixture of theta waves from REM sleep and beta waves from active consciousness. This creates an unstable neural state that your brain struggles to resolve. The reason some people experience sleep paralysis repeatedly, while others never do, comes down to individual differences in neurotransmitter processing. Some people have genetic variations that affect how quickly their brains clear the paralysis-inducing chemicals. Others have hyperactive REM sleep systems that produce more of these chemicals than normal. Sleep disorders like sleep apnea can also disrupt the normal sleep stage transitions, creating more opportunities for the paralysis system to malfunction. Irregular sleep schedules create the perfect conditions for sleep paralysis to occur. When you don't maintain consistent sleep and wake times, your brain's internal clock gets confused about when to activate and deactivate the paralysis system. Shift workers, students pulling all-nighters, and people with jet lag experience sleep paralysis at much higher rates because their circadian rhythms are constantly disrupted. Sleep stage transitions represent the most vulnerable moments for sleep paralysis to strike. Your brain has to coordinate dozens of different neural systems to move smoothly from one sleep stage to another. If you're sleep deprived, stressed, or have consumed alcohol or caffeine, these transitions become sloppy. The paralysis system might activate too early or shut down too late, creating windows of opportunity for episodes to occur. Your brain's fear response system becomes hyperactive during sleep paralysis episodes. The amygdala, which processes fear and threat detection, receives confusing signals from your paralyzed body. It interprets the inability to move as a sign of extreme danger, flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This fear response makes the paralysis feel even more intense and can trigger the hallucinations that accompany most episodes. Temperature regulation also affects sleep paralysis frequency. Your body temperature naturally drops during REM sleep, and the paralysis system is partially controlled by temperature-sensitive neurons. People who sleep in rooms that are too hot or too cold experience more frequent episodes because their temperature regulation systems interfere with normal sleep stage transitions. The timing of sleep paralysis episodes follows predictable patterns. Most episodes occur during the early morning hours, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., when REM sleep is most abundant. This is when your brain produces the highest levels of dream-inducing chemicals and when the paralysis system is most active. Episodes that occur when falling asleep, called hypnagogic paralysis, are less common but tend to be more frightening because they happen when your brain is less prepared for the experience. Age affects sleep paralysis frequency because of changes in neurotransmitter production and sleep architecture. Teenagers and young adults experience the highest rates because their brains are still developing and their sleep patterns are often irregular. After age 30, episodes become less common as sleep patterns stabilize and neurotransmitter systems mature. Understanding these neurological mechanisms transforms sleep paralysis from a supernatural mystery into a manageable medical condition. When you know that your brain is simply experiencing a temporary neurotransmitter imbalance, the experience becomes less terrifying. The paralysis isn't permanent, the hallucinations aren't real, and your body isn't in actual danger. This knowledge forms the foundation for every effective treatment and prevention strategy, because fear often makes episodes worse and more frequent. But knowing the science is only half the battle. The modern world has introduced entirely new factors that can trigger these episodes, and many of them are hiding in plain sight in your daily routine. Modern life's hidden sleep paralysis triggers. Your smartphone screen might be the reason you woke up paralyzed last night. Modern technology has created entirely new pathways to sleep paralysis that didn't exist just 20 years ago. The blue light streaming from your phone, laptop, and tablet screens tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, even when you're scrolling through social media at midnight. This artificial light suppresses melatonin production for hours after you finally put the device down, disrupting your natural sleep cycles and creating the perfect conditions for sleep paralysis to strike. The statistics reveal just how widespread this digital sleep disruption has become. A recent survey found more than 70% of those with sleep problems use screens before bed, with television and social media serving as the primary culprits. This constant exposure to blue light reduces the amount of time your brain spends in both slow wave and REM sleep, the two stages most crucial for preventing sleep paralysis. When your sleep architecture becomes fragmented, your brain struggles to coordinate the complex transitions between sleep stages, making those dangerous wake-sleep overlaps much more likely to occur. Average pre-sleep screen use ranges from 1 to 3 hours in surveys, creating extended periods of circadian disruption. Social media platforms have engineered their algorithms to keep you engaged long past your natural bedtime. This cognitive stimulation floods your brain with dopamine and stress hormones, right when these chemical levels should be dropping to their lowest point. Your mind becomes hyper-alert and anxious, making it nearly impossible to transition smoothly into sleep. When you finally do fall asleep, your brain often jerks back to consciousness while your body remains locked in REM paralysis. Work-from-home schedules have eliminated the natural boundaries that once separated work stress from sleep preparation. Without the physical transition of commuting home, many people find themselves answering emails and attending video calls right up until bedtime. The flexibility of remote work sounds appealing, but it often translates into irregular sleep schedules that wreak havoc on your circadian rhythm. A 2020 study found that 81.9% of shift workers reported sleep issues, compared to 73% of full-time workers and 72% of freelancers. When your sleep schedule varies by more than an hour from night to night, your brain loses its ability to predict when paralysis should activate and deactivate. The anxiety and stress levels that define modern life create a feedback loop that makes sleep paralysis more frequent and more intense. Chronic stress floods your system with cortisol, a hormone that interferes with normal sleep stage transitions. When you're stressed, Your brain remains hypervigilant even during sleep, making it more likely to wake up suddenly while your body is still paralyzed. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders, and panic disorder all significantly increase sleep paralysis frequency. The episodes themselves become additional sources of anxiety, creating a vicious cycle where fear of sleep paralysis makes sleep paralysis more likely to occur. Modern sleep medications present a paradox that many people don't understand. While these drugs can help you fall asleep initially, they often interfere with natural REM sleep patterns in ways that increase sleep paralysis risk. Medications used for ADHD can raise the likelihood of episodes, and stopping alcohol or antidepressants can trigger REM rebound, a phenomenon where your brain tries to make up for lost REM sleep by producing unusually intense REM periods. During these rebound episodes, the paralysis system becomes hyperactive, making sleep paralysis much more likely to occur. Your sleep schedule has become a casualty of modern life's demands. Late-night work calls, streaming services that autoplay the next episode, and 24-hour news cycles all conspire to keep you awake past your natural bedtime. When you finally do sleep, you often sleep in on weekends to compensate, creating a pattern of social jet lag that confuses your internal clock. A 2025 study emphasized that maintaining a consistent sleep schedule acts like tuning your internal clock, reducing the chance of disruptive wake-sleep overlaps, much like ensuring all parts of an orchestra are synchronized for perfect harmony. Without this synchronization, your brain struggles to coordinate the complex neurochemical processes that prevent sleep paralysis. Caffeine consumption patterns in 2025 have evolved into an all-day affair that extends far beyond the traditional morning cup of coffee. Energy drinks, pre-workout supplements, and afternoon coffee runs keep caffeine levels elevated well into the evening hours. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in your brain, preventing the natural accumulation of sleep pressure that helps you fall asleep. Even if you stop consuming caffeine 6 hours before bedtime, traces remain in your system, interfering with deep sleep and making your REM periods more unstable. This instability creates more opportunities for your consciousness to return while your body remains paralyzed. The processed foods that dominate modern diets create inflammation and blood sugar spikes that interfere with sleep quality. High-sodium foods cause water retention that can worsen sleep apnea, while refined sugars create energy crashes that disrupt your natural circadian rhythm. Ultra-processed foods also contain additives and preservatives that can affect neurotransmitter production, potentially interfering with the delicate balance of chemicals that control sleep paralysis. When your diet lacks the nutrients needed for proper neurotransmitter synthesis, your brain struggles to maintain stable sleep patterns. Artificial lighting extends far beyond your personal devices. LED streetlights, 24-hour businesses, and light pollution from cities have fundamentally altered the light environment that humans evolved to sleep in. Your circadian rhythm depends on detecting the natural transition from daylight to darkness, but modern environments never truly become dark. This constant low-level light exposure suppresses melatonin production throughout the night, making your sleep lighter and more fragmented. Even small amounts of light leaking through curtains or from electronic devices can disrupt your sleep architecture enough to trigger sleep paralysis. The combination of these modern triggers creates a perfect storm for sleep paralysis. A person might work late on a laptop, check social media before bed, drink an energy drink in the afternoon, eat processed dinner while watching television, and then try to sleep in a room filled with electronic devices. Each of these factors individually increases sleep paralysis risk, but their combined effect is exponentially more dangerous. The lifestyle changes that pose the highest risk include irregular sleep schedules, high stress levels, excessive screen time before bed, and the elimination of natural light-dark cycles from daily routines. Understanding these modern triggers reveals why sleep paralysis rates have increased dramatically in recent decades. The digital age hasn't just changed how we communicate and work, it has fundamentally altered our relationship with sleep itself. But the physical paralysis is only half the terror. What happens in your mind during these episodes creates an experience so universally frightening that it has shaped folklore across every culture on Earth. The shadow people and hallucination mystery. There's someone in the room with you. You can't see them clearly, but you know they're there. This isn't your imagination playing tricks on you during a nightmare. This is sleep paralysis, and that menacing presence you feel is one of the most consistent and terrifying aspects of the condition. Nearly everyone who experiences sleep paralysis reports sensing an evil entity nearby, watching them, sometimes even touching them. The feeling is so universal that it transcends culture, age, and background. Whether you live in Tokyo or Texas, the experience remains remarkably similar. 90% of people who experience sleep paralysis report seeing dark figures or feeling watched during their episodes. These aren't random hallucinations that vary from person to person. Instead, they follow predictable patterns that researchers have documented across thousands of cases. The figures are almost always dark, shadowy, and perceived as malevolent. Some people describe them as human-shaped silhouettes, while others see more abstract forms of darkness that seem to move with purpose. The consistency of these reports across different populations points to a specific neurological process that creates these frightening visions. Your brain manufactures these terrifying hallucinations through a complex interaction of neural systems that normally don't operate together. During sleep paralysis, your visual cortex remains active and begins generating images, but without the normal input from your eyes. At the same time, your brain's threat detection system becomes hypervigilant, scanning for dangers that might explain why you can't move. This combination creates a perfect storm for frightening visual experiences. Your brain essentially fills in the blanks with the most threatening imagery it can produce, which is why the figures always appear menacing rather than neutral or friendly. The hallucinations feel more real than regular dreams because multiple sensory systems activate simultaneously during sleep paralysis. Your brain processes these experiences using the same neural pathways it uses for actual perception. Unlike dreams, which primarily involve visual imagery, sleep paralysis hallucinations engage your sense of sight, hearing, touch, and even smell. This multisensory activation makes the experience feel immediate and physical rather than dreamlike. Your brain treats these hallucinations as real sensory input, which is why you can remember them so vividly afterward. Researchers have identified 3 distinct types of hallucinations that occur during sleep paralysis episodes. Intruder hallucinations involve sensing a dangerous person or presence in the room, often manifesting as seeing a dark figure standing in the corner, hearing footsteps approaching your bed, or feeling someone touching you. Incubus hallucinations center on chest pressure and feelings of suffocation, accompanied by the sensation of something sitting on your chest or pressing down on your body. Vestibulomotor hallucinations create sensations of movement, such as feeling like you're floating, flying, or having an out-of-body experience where you can see yourself lying in bed. Brain imaging studies reveal why these experiences feel so universally terrifying. During sleep paralysis, your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, becomes extremely active, while areas responsible for logical thinking show reduced activity. This creates a state where your brain generates maximum fear responses without the normal mechanisms that would help you rationalize the experience. The threat detection centers stay on high alert during paralysis, amplifying hallucinations and making them feel incredibly real and immediate. Most people experience combinations of these hallucination types during a single episode. You might see a dark figure approaching while simultaneously feeling pressure on your chest and hearing strange breathing sounds. The brain's attempt to create a coherent narrative from these mixed sensory experiences often results in the perception of a single threatening entity that can be seen, heard, and felt. This integration of different hallucination types explains why the experiences feel so complete and convincing. Cultural background influences the specific content of sleep paralysis hallucinations in fascinating ways. In Western cultures, people often report seeing intruders, demons, or alien beings. Japanese individuals frequently describe encounters with spirits or supernatural entities from their folklore. Mexican culture interprets the experience through the lens of supernatural visitation, while some African cultures associate the hallucinations with witchcraft or ancestral spirits. Despite these cultural variations in interpretation, the underlying sensory experiences remain remarkably consistent across all populations. Fear doesn't just accompany sleep paralysis hallucinations, it actively makes them worse. When you become frightened during an episode, your brain releases stress hormones that intensify the hallucinations and make them last longer. The fear also triggers more activity in the brain regions responsible for threat detection, which generates even more frightening imagery. This creates a feedback loop where fear produces more intense hallucinations, which in turn produce more fear. Breaking this cycle requires understanding that the hallucinations, while terrifying, cannot actually harm you. Auditory hallucinations during sleep paralysis add another layer of terror to the experience. People report hearing footsteps, voices, breathing, scratching sounds, or even music. These sounds seem to come from specific locations in the room and often appear to move around. The auditory hallucinations frequently coordinate with visual ones, so you might hear footsteps approaching while simultaneously seeing a dark figure moving toward your bed. Your brain creates these sounds using the same mechanisms it uses for actual hearing, which is why they seem so real and immediate. The voices people hear during sleep paralysis episodes range from whispers to distinct conversations. Some individuals report hearing their name called, while others describe threatening voices or incomprehensible muttering. These auditory experiences often seem to come from the same source as the visual hallucinations, reinforcing the perception of a single threatening presence. The content of these voices sometimes reflects the person's deepest fears or anxieties, as the brain draws on emotional memories to create the most disturbing possible experience. The scientific reason these hallucinations are so consistently terrifying across cultures lies in human evolutionary history. Your brain's threat detection systems evolved to keep you alive in dangerous situations. When your brain detects that you're conscious but unable to move, it interprets this as a life-threatening situation and activates every available fear response. The hallucinations serve as your brain's attempt to identify and locate the perceived threat. Since the brain has no actual threat to focus on, it creates one that fits the situation, which is why the figures are always malevolent rather than neutral or benign. Understanding the neurological basis of these hallucinations removes much of their power to terrify you. When you know that your brain is creating these frightening images and sounds as a misguided protective response, the experience becomes less overwhelming. The shadow people aren't real entities. They're products of your brain's attempt to make sense of an unusual neurological state. But the visual and auditory hallucinations represent only part of the terror that defines sleep paralysis. The physical sensations
The crushing
that
weight
accompany
and
these
breathing
episodes
terror.
can feel
You're
even
suffocating.
more life-threatening. An invisible force presses down on your chest, making each breath feel like your last. Your lungs strain against an unseen weight, and panic floods your mind as you realize you might be dying. This crushing sensation strikes almost everyone who experiences sleep paralysis, creating one of the most terrifying aspects of the condition. The feeling of being unable to breathe properly transforms what should be a temporary inconvenience into a life-threatening emergency in your mind. The pressure on your chest during sleep paralysis has a specific physiological explanation that researchers have studied extensively. During normal REM sleep, your respiratory muscles experience significant reductions in activity, just like all your other voluntary muscles. Your diaphragm continues working to maintain basic breathing, but the accessory muscles that help you take deep breaths become temporarily paralyzed. When you wake up during sleep paralysis, your brain expects to regain full control of your breathing muscles, but the paralysis persists. This creates a disconnect between what your brain expects and what your body can actually do. Your respiratory system operates under completely different rules during REM sleep compared to wakefulness. During normal waking hours, you can consciously control your breathing rate and depth. You can hold your breath, breathe rapidly, or take deep breaths as needed. REM sleep removes this voluntary control and relies entirely on automatic breathing patterns controlled by the brainstem. These automatic patterns are often irregular and shallow compared to conscious breathing. When sleep paralysis occurs, you regain consciousness, but not the ability to override these automatic breathing patterns. The medical research reveals significant changes in how your body processes oxygen during REM sleep. Your accessory breathing muscles drop to about 40% of their normal activity levels during this sleep stage. These changes mean your breathing naturally becomes more shallow during REM sleep. When you wake up during sleep paralysis, your brain detects these altered breathing patterns and interprets them as signs of respiratory distress. Panic makes the breathing sensation exponentially worse during sleep paralysis episodes. When you first realize you can't move and your breathing feels restricted, your brain triggers a fight or flight response. This response floods your system with adrenaline and increases your heart rate, making your body demand more oxygen precisely when your breathing feels most restricted. The shallow REM breathing patterns, combined with panic hormones, make you feel starved for air. The increased oxygen demand combined with the perceived inability to breathe creates a feedback loop where panic intensifies the breathing difficulty, which in turn increases panic levels. Your sleep position plays a crucial role in determining how intense the chest pressure feels during sleep paralysis. People who sleep on their backs report the most severe sensations of chest pressure and breathing difficulty. This position allows gravity to press down on your chest and can cause your tongue to fall backward, partially blocking your airway. The combination of reduced muscle tone from REM sleep and gravitational effects creates the perfect conditions for feeling like something heavy is sitting on your chest. Side sleepers experience less intense pressure sensations because gravity doesn't work against their breathing mechanics as directly. The brain's interpretation of normal REM breathing patterns creates much of the terror associated with sleep paralysis. During regular REM sleep, your breathing naturally becomes irregular, with periods of shallow breathing followed by slightly deeper breaths. Your brain doesn't notice these irregularities because you're unconscious. However, during sleep paralysis, your conscious mind monitors these irregular breathing patterns and interprets them as signs of respiratory failure. What feels like suffocation is actually your brain's misinterpretation of normal REM sleep breathing. Many people describe feeling like they're being strangled or smothered during sleep paralysis episodes. This sensation occurs because your brain expects to regain full control of your throat muscles when you wake up, but the paralysis prevents this from happening. Your larynx and pharynx muscles remain in their REM sleep state, which can make swallowing difficult and create the sensation of throat constriction. The inability to swallow normally adds to the feeling of being choked, even though your airway remains open and functional. Sleep apnea significantly intensifies breathing sensations during sleep paralysis episodes. People with sleep apnea already experience interrupted breathing during sleep, and when sleep paralysis occurs, these breathing interruptions become consciously perceived. The brain interprets the combination of muscle paralysis and breathing interruptions as an extreme emergency. Sleep apnea patients who experience sleep paralysis often report feeling like they're drowning or being buried alive because their brains detect both the paralysis and the breathing obstruction simultaneously. The reduced activity in your prefrontal cortex during sleep paralysis prevents you from thinking rationally about your breathing. This brain region normally helps you assess situations logically and recognize when your perceptions might be distorted. Dr. Matthew P. Walker explains that hallucinations become extremely realistic and emotionally charged, amplified by an overly active amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm center. Without proper prefrontal cortex function, your brain accepts the perception of breathing difficulty as completely real and responds with maximum fear and panic. Temperature regulation affects how severely you experience breathing difficulties during sleep paralysis. Your body temperature drops during REM sleep, and this cooling can make your airways slightly more constricted. When you wake up during sleep paralysis, the combination of cooler airways and paralyzed breathing muscles can make breathing feel more labored than usual. Room temperature, humidity levels, and even the weight of your bedding can all influence how restricted your breathing feels during an episode. The psychological impact of breathing difficulties during sleep paralysis often outlasts the physical episode itself. Many people develop anxiety about going to sleep because they fear experiencing that suffocating sensation again. This anxiety can actually make future episodes more likely and more severe because stress hormones interfere with normal sleep patterns. The fear of not being able to breathe becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that makes sleep paralysis more frequent and more terrifying. Understanding the physiological basis of breathing difficulties during sleep paralysis removes much of their power to terrify you. When you know that your breathing is actually functioning normally, and that the sensations result from your brain's misinterpretation of normal REM sleep patterns, the experience becomes less overwhelming. Your body isn't actually suffocating, your airway isn't blocked, and you're not going to die from the breathing sensations. This knowledge forms the foundation for managing these episodes effectively, because recognizing that the breathing difficulty is a perception rather than reality helps prevent the panic that makes episodes worse. But just how many people around the world face this terrifying experience? Global statistics that will shock you. The numbers reveal a global crisis hiding in plain sight. Sleep paralysis affects 7.6% of the general population worldwide, meaning roughly 600 million people have experienced the terror of waking up trapped in their own bodies. This statistic represents one of the most underreported medical conditions on the planet, with millions of people suffering in silence because they don't understand what's happening to them. Students face dramatically higher rates that should alarm every parent and educator. Among college students, Approximately 28% report experiencing at least one episode during their academic years. This rate is nearly 4 times higher than the general population, revealing how the combination of irregular sleep schedules, academic stress, and lifestyle changes creates perfect conditions for sleep paralysis to strike. The transition from high school to college represents one of the most vulnerable periods in a person's life for developing this condition. Psychiatric patients experience sleep paralysis at even more alarming rates, with roughly 32% reporting episodes. This statistic reveals the strong connection between mental health conditions and sleep paralysis, but it also suggests that the condition might be significantly underreported in the general population. Many people who experience sleep paralysis never seek medical attention, assuming their episodes are nightmares or supernatural encounters, rather than a documented medical condition. Age patterns reveal why teenagers and young adults face the highest risk for sleep paralysis episodes. The first episode typically occurs between ages 16 and 20, during a period when sleep patterns undergo dramatic changes. Teenagers naturally shift toward later bedtimes and wake times, but school schedules force them to wake up early, creating chronic sleep debt. This age group also faces increased stress levels, hormonal changes, and lifestyle factors that disrupt normal sleep architecture. Adolescents who use technology frequently show significantly shorter weekday sleep duration, which directly correlates with increased sleep paralysis risk. The combination of blue light exposure, social media engagement, and irregular sleep schedules creates a perfect storm for sleep paralysis development. Modern teenagers sleep an average of 2 hours less per night than their counterparts from previous generations, fundamentally altering their sleep stage transitions. Gender differences in sleep paralysis experiences show consistent patterns across multiple studies. Females report episodes more frequently than males, though researchers continue investigating the underlying causes. Hormonal fluctuations during menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause may influence sleep paralysis frequency. Women also report higher rates of anxiety and depression, both of which increase sleep paralysis risk. The episodes themselves often feel more intense and frightening for female participants, possibly due to differences in fear processing and stress responses. Occupational factors reveal striking differences in sleep paralysis rates across different professions. Shift workers experience sleep disorders at rates of 81.9%, compared to 73% of full-time workers and 72% of freelancers. Healthcare workers, emergency responders, and factory workers who rotate between day and night shifts face the highest risk because their work schedules constantly disrupt their circadian rhythms. Transportation workers, including truck drivers, airline pilots, and train operators, also show elevated sleep paralysis rates due to irregular schedules and high-stress working conditions. Geographic location dramatically influences sleep paralysis rates in ways that researchers are still working to understand. Denmark reports significantly lower rates than Egypt, with only 25% of Danish participants experiencing sleep paralysis compared to 44% in Egypt. These differences point to cultural, environmental, and genetic factors that affect susceptibility. Countries with different sleep traditions, work schedules, and cultural interpretations of sleep experiences show vastly different prevalence rates. Urbanization and modern living patterns affect sleep paralysis prevalence in unexpected ways. Americans living in urban areas report sleep disorders at rates of 76.5%, compared to 70.2% of suburban citizens and 73% of rural citizens. Urban environments expose people to constant artificial light, noise pollution, and higher stress levels that interfere with natural sleep patterns. City dwellers also tend to maintain later bedtimes and consume more caffeine, both of which increase sleep paralysis risk. Genetic factors play a significant role in determining who develops sleep paralysis. Studies have identified variants in circadian rhythm-related genes, including PER, clock, and ARNTL2, that influence susceptibility rates. These genes control your internal biological clock and affect how your brain transitions between sleep stages. People with certain genetic variations in these genes experience more disrupted sleep architecture, making them more prone to the wake-sleep overlaps that trigger sleep paralysis. Mental health conditions create some of the strongest risk factors for sleep paralysis development. Individuals with post-traumatic stress disorder face dramatically increased rates of sleep paralysis, often experiencing episodes multiple times per week. The hypervigilance associated with PTSD interferes with normal sleep stage transitions, making the brain more likely to wake up during REM sleep while the body remains paralyzed. Anxiety disorders and panic disorders also significantly increase sleep paralysis occurrence, creating cycles where fear of sleep paralysis makes sleep paralysis more likely to happen. Socioeconomic factors contribute to sleep paralysis disparities across different populations. Non-white populations experience sleep paralysis at higher rates than Caucasians, likely due to a combination of genetic, cultural, and environmental factors. Access to healthcare, housing quality, work schedules, and stress levels all influence sleep paralysis development. The demographic factors that create the highest risk profile include being between ages 16 and 25, female gender, student status, psychiatric history, shift work employment, urban residence, and non-white ethnicity. Individuals who match multiple risk factors face exponentially higher chances of experiencing sleep paralysis. These statistical patterns reveal how modern society has created conditions that make this condition more common than ever before. But they also point to something deeper. The universality of this experience across all cultures and populations suggests that humans have been grappling with sleep paralysis for thousands of years, developing rich traditions and explanations to make sense of this terrifying phenomenon. Ancient folklore meets modern science. Every culture across the globe has encountered this terrifying experience, and every culture has created explanations for what happens when you wake up trapped in your own body. In Newfoundland, it's the old hag. In Japan, the konoshibari. In Brazil, the pisadera. All describe a weight on the chest that mirrors REM paralysis. Chinese tradition calls it ghost depression, where spirits press down on sleeping individuals. Mexican culture captures it through Ese me subió el muerto, the dead climbed on me. These universal themes reveal something profound about the human experience and how we cope with phenomena that defy easy explanation. The consistency of these cultural interpretations across different continents and historical periods points to shared physiological responses to sleep paralysis. The feeling of pressure on the chest appears in folklore from Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, suggesting that this physical sensation is a fundamental aspect of the condition. The perception of a malevolent presence also appears across cultures, though the specific identity of this entity varies based on local beliefs and traditions. These commonalities indicate that while cultural explanations differ, the underlying human experience remains remarkably consistent. Art has captured these experiences for centuries, with Henry Fuseli's 1781 painting, The Nightmare, depicting a demonic figure sitting on a sleeping woman's chest while a ghostly horse emerges from the darkness. This haunting image perfectly captures the universal elements of sleep paralysis: the crushing weight, the sense of evil presence, and the complete helplessness of the victim. The painting's enduring power demonstrates how artists have long recognized the profound terror and mystery surrounding these episodes. Supernatural beliefs play a crucial role in how individuals cope with sleep paralysis episodes. In cultures where spiritual explanations dominate, people often turn to religious rituals, prayers, or protective practices to manage their fear and prevent future episodes. These practices provide a sense of control and agency in situations where individuals feel completely helpless. The belief that external forces cause sleep paralysis can actually reduce self-blame and anxiety, as people attribute the experience to factors beyond their personal control. However, these same beliefs can also intensify fear if individuals become convinced that malevolent spirits are specifically targeting them. Modern science validates the core experiences described in folklore, while providing neurological explanations for the supernatural interpretations. The crushing sensation on the chest corresponds to the respiratory changes that occur during REM sleep, when breathing becomes more shallow and irregular. The perception of an evil presence reflects the heightened activity in brain regions responsible for threat detection, combined with the visual hallucinations generated by an overactive visual cortex. The feeling of being touched or attacked corresponds to tactile hallucinations created by disrupted sensory processing during the transition between sleep and wakefulness. Even contemporary myths reflect these same underlying experiences. Modern reports of alien abduction often describe the same core elements: paralysis, the presence of threatening entities, and feelings of being examined or touched. These accounts mirror the ancient folklore patterns, suggesting that the human brain creates similar explanatory frameworks regardless of cultural context. The shift from demons and spirits to extraterrestrial visitors demonstrates how cultural narratives evolve, while the underlying neurological experience remains constant. Cultural context significantly affects how people interpret their sleep paralysis episodes and the emotional intensity of their responses. Individuals from cultures with strong supernatural beliefs may experience more intense fear and distress during episodes because they interpret the experience as a genuine spiritual attack. This increased fear can actually make episodes last longer and occur more frequently, as stress hormones interfere with normal sleep patterns. Conversely, people from cultures that emphasize scientific explanations may experience less fear, but might struggle with feelings of isolation if their community lacks frameworks for understanding the experience. The role of cultural knowledge in recovery presents both opportunities and challenges for modern treatment approaches. Traditional explanations can provide comfort and community support, connecting individuals with others who have shared similar experiences. Cultural practices like meditation, prayer, or ritual cleansing can offer effective coping strategies that reduce anxiety and promote better sleep hygiene. However, supernatural interpretations can also perpetuate fear and prevent people from seeking appropriate medical care. Some individuals may avoid discussing their episodes with healthcare providers because they fear being dismissed or misunderstood. Folklore knowledge can both help and hinder recovery from sleep paralysis, depending on how it influences individual beliefs and behaviors. Stories that emphasize the temporary nature of episodes and provide practical coping strategies can be beneficial, while narratives that focus on supernatural dangers may increase anxiety and make episodes more frequent. Cultural practices that promote relaxation and stress reduction typically support recovery, whereas rituals that increase fear or require significant lifestyle changes may interfere with treatment. Understanding cultural perspectives enhances modern treatment approaches by allowing healthcare providers to develop more effective and culturally sensitive interventions. Clinicians who acknowledge and respect their patients' cultural beliefs can build stronger therapeutic relationships and tailor treatments to address specific cultural concerns. This approach might involve incorporating traditional practices that support sleep hygiene, while gradually introducing scientific explanations that reduce fear and anxiety. The integration of cultural perspectives with scientific understanding creates opportunities for more comprehensive treatment approaches that address both the physiological and psychological aspects of sleep paralysis. Rather than dismissing cultural explanations as primitive or incorrect, modern medicine can recognize the valuable insights these traditions offer about human psychology and effective coping strategies. This respectful integration honors the wisdom embedded in cultural traditions while providing individuals with the scientific knowledge they need to manage their condition effectively. The study of cultural interpretations reveals how human beings have always sought to make sense of experiences that challenge their understanding of reality. These folklore traditions demonstrate the universal human need to find meaning in frightening and confusing experiences, creating narratives that provide comfort and community for those who suffer from this condition. But beyond understanding the cultural context, there are practical techniques that can help revolutionary finger movement technique when paralysis strikes. A single finger twitch can shatter the prison that holds your body captive during sleep paralysis. This discovery has revolutionized how people manage episodes, offering a practical escape route from what feels like an inescapable trap. The technique works because your brain maintains different levels of control over various muscle groups during REM sleep paralysis. While your major muscle groups remain locked in place, smaller movements in your extremities can still break through the neurological barriers that keep you frozen. Your fingers and toes represent the weakest points in your body's paralysis system during sleep paralysis episodes. The motor neurons that control these small muscles receive different signals from your brain compared to the neurons that control your arms, legs, and torso. During normal REM sleep, the paralysis affects your entire body equally. But during sleep paralysis, when consciousness returns while muscle paralysis persists, the system becomes imperfect. The neurotransmitters that maintain paralysis don't distribute evenly throughout your nervous system, creating small gaps where movement remains possible. The specific technique for wiggling fingers requires focused concentration rather than forceful effort. Start by directing your attention to your right index finger and imagine moving it slightly. Don't try to make large movements or clench your entire hand. Instead, focus on the smallest possible twitch or tremor. Many people find success by visualizing the movement first, then attempting to execute it with minimal effort. The key lies in persistence rather than intensity. Keep trying the small movement repeatedly, as it may take several attempts before your brain successfully sends the signal through to your finger muscles. A small twitch sends a signal to your brain that movement is possible, unlocking the rest of your body. When you successfully move a finger or toe during sleep paralysis, that movement sends sensory feedback to your brain through peripheral nerves. This feedback signal acts like a reset button for your brain's motor control systems. The brain receives confirmation that muscle movement is possible, which begins to override the paralysis signals that originated during REM sleep. The movement essentially tells your brain that it's time to wake up the rest of your motor control systems. The progression from finger movement to full body awakening follows a predictable pattern that most people experience similarly. Once you successfully move a finger or toe, the sensation of paralysis begins to fade gradually rather than disappearing instantly. You might next regain control of your hand, then your arm, and eventually your entire body. This progression typically takes between 30 seconds to 2 minutes, though it can feel much longer when you're experiencing it. The key is to remain calm during this awakening process and continue making small movements to maintain the momentum of recovery. Success rates for the finger movement technique show promising results across different populations. A clinical pilot study found that episodes reduced by half after practicing small movement-focused techniques, demonstrating the effectiveness of this approach. The technique appears to work equally well for both men and women, though some research suggests that younger individuals may find it easier to implement successfully. People with frequent sleep paralysis episodes often develop proficiency with the technique more quickly than those who experience episodes rarely. Practicing the finger movement method before episodes occur significantly improves your chances of success during an actual sleep paralysis event. During normal waking hours, lie down comfortably and practice the mental process of focusing on your finger movements. Visualize yourself in a paralyzed state and mentally rehearse the steps you would take to move your fingers. This mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that your brain can access more easily during an actual episode. Many people find that practicing this visualization technique for just a few minutes each day dramatically improves their ability to execute the movement when they need it most. Alternative small movement techniques provide options for people who struggle with finger movements or want additional strategies in their toolkit. Toe wiggling works on the same principle as finger movement and may be easier for some individuals to execute. Focus on your big toe and attempt the smallest possible movement, just as you would with your fingers. The technique of wiggling toes engages the same neurological pathways that make finger movements effective, offering a reliable backup method when finger control proves difficult. The reason this simple technique proves more effective than fighting the paralysis lies in how your nervous system responds to different types of signals. When you try to move your entire body or fight against the paralysis with force, you create stress signals that actually reinforce the paralysis state. Your brain interprets the struggle as confirmation that something is wrong, which can extend the episode and make it more frightening. Small movements work with your nervous system rather than against it, providing the gentle stimulation needed to reset your motor controls without triggering additional stress responses. Understanding why the finger movement technique works removes the mystery from sleep paralysis episodes and provides you with a concrete tool for managing them. The technique transforms you from a helpless victim into someone with agency and control over the situation. This psychological shift often reduces the fear associated with sleep paralysis, which in turn can make episodes less frequent and less severe. When you know you have a reliable method for breaking free from paralysis, the entire experience becomes more manageable and less terrifying. The finger movement technique represents just one component of a comprehensive approach to managing sleep paralysis episodes. While regaining physical control addresses the paralysis itself, managing your body's panic response requires a different set of skills entirely. The overwhelming urge to struggle against the paralysis often triggers breathing difficulties that can make episodes feel even more life-threatening than they already are. Breathing techniques that actually work. Your first instinct during sleep paralysis is to fight for air, to force your breathing back to normal through sheer willpower. This response feels natural when you wake up unable to move and your breathing seems restricted. However, this approach makes everything worse. The secret to managing sleep paralysis lies in doing the opposite of what your panic response demands. Instead of fighting your breathing, You need to work with it through slow, controlled breaths that prevent your fear from spiraling out of control. Controlled breathing prevents panic escalation by interrupting the feedback loop between fear and physical sensations. When you first realize you cannot move during sleep paralysis, your brain immediately activates stress responses that flood your system with adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones increase your heart rate and make your body demand more oxygen precisely when your breathing feels most restricted. The mismatch between your oxygen demands and your perceived breathing capacity creates intense panic. Slow, deliberate breathing breaks this cycle by sending signals to your brain that you are safe and in control, even when your body remains temporarily paralyzed. The specific breathing pattern that works best during paralysis involves counting your breaths in a structured rhythm. Focus on breathing in slowly for 4 counts, holding that breath for 4 counts, then exhaling slowly for 6 counts. This pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system and counteracts the stress response that makes sleep paralysis episodes more intense. The extended exhalation is particularly important because it triggers your vagus nerve, which sends calming signals throughout your body. As you concentrate on maintaining this breathing pattern, you create a focal point that helps your mind stay organized and calm during the episode. Breath focus redirects attention away from hallucinations by giving your conscious mind a specific task to perform. During sleep paralysis, your brain often creates terrifying visual and auditory hallucinations that feel completely real. The dark figures, threatening voices, and sensations of being watched become more intense when you focus on them directly. By concentrating on the rhythm and depth of each breath, you shift your attention away from these disturbing images and sensations. This redirection does not make the hallucinations disappear completely, but it reduces their emotional impact and prevents them from overwhelming your mental state. Your breathing becomes an anchor that keeps your mind grounded in a manageable reality. The physiological effects of slow, deliberate breathing during sleep paralysis extend beyond simple relaxation. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you increase the oxygen levels in your blood while reducing carbon dioxide buildup. This improved gas exchange helps your brain function more clearly and reduces the physical sensations of suffocation that often accompany episodes. Slow breathing also reduces muscle tension throughout your body, which can make the paralysis feel less severe. The deliberate control of your breathing demonstrates to your brain that you retain agency over your body, even when voluntary movement seems impossible. Practicing these breathing techniques during normal sleep preparation creates muscle memory that makes them more effective during actual episodes. Before going to bed each night, spend 5 minutes practicing the 4-count inhale, 4-count, hold, 6-count exhale pattern. Lie in your normal sleep position and focus on making each breath smooth and controlled. This practice familiarizes your body with the breathing pattern, so you can implement it more easily when sleep paralysis occurs. The familiarity with the technique reduces the cognitive load required to remember and execute it during a frightening episode. The connection between breathing control and episode duration becomes clear when you understand how panic affects sleep paralysis. Episodes typically last between 1 and 3 minutes, but panic can extend this duration significantly. Slow breathing prevents adrenaline spikes that prolong episodes by maintaining high stress hormone levels that interfere with your brain's ability to fully wake up and restore normal motor function. Controlled breathing helps your brain transition more smoothly from the paralyzed state to full wakefulness. People who use proper breathing techniques consistently report shorter episode durations and less intense experiences overall. Meditation breathing techniques adapted for sleep paralysis offer additional tools for managing episodes. Progressive muscle relaxation, combined with breath awareness, can be particularly effective. Start by focusing on your breathing, then systematically scan your body from head to toe, acknowledging areas of tension without trying to change them. This technique helps you accept the temporary paralysis rather than fighting against it. Mindfulness meditation principles also apply to sleep paralysis management. Instead of judging the experience as terrible or dangerous, try to observe it with curiosity and acceptance. This mental shift reduces the emotional charge of the episode and makes it easier to implement breathing techniques effectively. Proper breathing technique can prevent future episodes by improving your overall sleep quality and reducing stress levels. Regular practice of controlled breathing exercises before bed helps regulate your nervous system and promotes more stable sleep patterns. When your body learns to relax more effectively at bedtime, you experience fewer disruptions during sleep stage transitions. The improved sleep quality reduces the likelihood of the irregular REM sleep patterns that trigger sleep paralysis episodes. Breathing exercises also help manage the anxiety and stress that often contribute to sleep paralysis frequency. The breathing techniques work best when combined with mental strategies that address the psychological aspects of sleep paralysis. Remind yourself that the episode is temporary and that you are not in physical danger. Your breathing is actually functioning normally, even though it feels restricted. The sensations of suffocation and chest pressure result from your brain's misinterpretation of normal REM sleep breathing patterns. Understanding this physiological reality helps you remain calm while implementing breathing techniques. As you continue practicing controlled breathing during episodes, you develop confidence in your ability to manage the experience, which reduces anticipatory anxiety about future episodes. These breathing techniques provide powerful tools for managing sleep paralysis when it occurs, but they represent only one part of a comprehensive approach to dealing with this condition. While learning to control your response during episodes is crucial, addressing the underlying factors that trigger sleep paralysis in the first place offers an even more effective long-term solution. Prevention strategies based on latest research. The most effective approach combines 4 core prevention pillars that work together to eliminate the conditions that trigger episodes. Research from 2025 shows that people who implement comprehensive prevention programs report dramatic reductions in episode frequency, with many experiencing complete elimination of their sleep paralysis episodes. Consistent sleep scheduling forms the foundation of prevention because your brain operates on a precise internal clock that expects you to sleep and wake at the same times every day. When you maintain irregular sleep patterns, your brain becomes confused about when to activate and deactivate the paralysis systems that normally protect you during REM sleep. Going to bed and waking up at identical times 7 days a week, including weekends, creates the stability your brain needs to prevent the wake-sleep overlaps that trigger sleep paralysis. A regular sleep schedule acts like tuning your internal clock, reducing the chance of disruptive wake-sleep overlaps and creating the neurological harmony that prevents episodes from occurring. Your sleep duration matters as much as your sleep timing. Adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night to maintain healthy sleep architecture. Too little sleep creates the sleep deprivation that makes sleep paralysis more likely, while too much sleep can disrupt your natural circadian rhythms and increase episode frequency. Track your sleep patterns for several weeks to identify your optimal sleep duration, then maintain that schedule consistently. Sleep environment modifications create conditions that support stable, uninterrupted sleep through 3 critical factors. Your bedroom should remain dark, quiet, and cool throughout the night. Light exposure during sleep interferes with melatonin production and can trigger premature awakening during REM sleep, exactly the conditions that cause sleep paralysis. Install blackout curtains, remove electronic devices that emit light, and consider using an eye mask if complete darkness isn't possible. Temperature control is equally important because your body temperature naturally drops during sleep, and rooms that are too warm or too cold can disrupt this natural cooling process. Sleep position significantly affects episode frequency, with people who sleep on their backs experiencing more frequent and intense sleep paralysis episodes due to gravitational effects on breathing. Side sleeping reduces the likelihood of airway restrictions and sleep apnea symptoms that can contribute to episodes. Your mattress and pillow should support proper spinal alignment, with a pillow that keeps your neck and head in natural alignment and a mattress that provides appropriate firmness without creating pressure points that cause restless sleep. Stress management represents one of the most powerful prevention strategies available because stress hormones directly interfere with normal sleep patterns. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels, which disrupts your circadian rhythm and makes sleep stage transitions more unstable. When your brain remains hypervigilant due to stress, it becomes more likely to wake up suddenly during REM sleep while your body remains paralyzed. Stress and related conditions like anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, and panic disorder are frequently linked to episodes, making stress reduction essential for prevention. Meditation and mindfulness exercises provide practical tools for managing stress levels throughout the day and before bedtime. Progressive muscle relaxation, deep breathing exercises, and meditation help activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes the calm state necessary for stable sleep. Practice these techniques during the day when you're not stressed, so they become automatic responses you can use when anxiety threatens to disrupt your sleep. The key lies in consistency rather than intensity, with brief daily practice sessions proving more effective than occasional longer sessions. Treating underlying sleep disorders prevents paralysis by addressing the root causes of sleep disruption. Sleep disorders and other sleep problems have shown some of the strongest correlations with isolated sleep paralysis. Higher rates of sleep paralysis are reported by people with obstructive sleep apnea, a sleep disorder marked by repeated lapses in breathing. Sleep paralysis has also been found to be more common in people with chronic insomnia, circadian rhythm dysregulation, and nighttime leg cramps. If you are diagnosed with narcolepsy or another sleep disorder, a sleep doctor will work with you to find a treatment plan for your disorder. Mental health treatment addresses anxiety-related triggers through cognitive behavioral therapy techniques specifically designed for sleep disorders. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia reframes negative thoughts and emotions that can disrupt sleep and trigger sleep paralysis episodes. If you are diagnosed with a mental health condition such as anxiety or bipolar disorder, your doctor will oversee your ongoing treatment with medication and behavioral therapy to help treat your mental health condition. Treating your underlying mental health condition may help resolve sleep paralysis. Dietary and lifestyle adjustments support these 4 pillars through targeted changes that enhance sleep quality. Avoid alcohol, particularly in the evening, as it disrupts sleep architecture by suppressing REM sleep early in the night, then causing REM rebound later that can trigger sleep paralysis. Limit caffeine after 2 p.m. to prevent interference with your sleep cycles. Avoid smoking close to bedtime, as nicotine acts as a stimulant that fragments sleep. Eat your last large meal at least 3 hours before bedtime to prevent digestive discomfort from interfering with sleep quality. Regular exercise improves sleep quality and reduces episodes by relieving stress and promoting physical tiredness that supports deep sleep. Find an exercise routine you enjoy and can maintain consistently, whether biking, weightlifting, or team sports. Avoid vigorous exercise within 1 hour of bedtime, as it raises core body temperature and stimulates your nervous system. Plan intensive workouts for earlier in the day, while gentle stretching or yoga can be beneficial closer to bedtime. The prevention strategies that show the highest success rates combine improved sleep hygiene, stress management, and treatment of underlying medical or psychiatric conditions. Most people who implement these comprehensive approaches see significant improvement within 4 to 6 weeks. However, some individuals continue experiencing frequent episodes despite following prevention strategies perfectly, indicating that their condition may require professional medical evaluation becomes essential when 3 clear red flags appear in your sleep paralysis experience. First, frequency that exceeds twice per month indicates your episodes have moved beyond occasional occurrences into a pattern that requires professional attention. Second, daytime impairment that affects your work performance, relationships, or daily functioning signals that sleep paralysis is controlling your life rather than being an isolated nighttime experience. Third, associated sleep disorders like excessive daytime sleepiness, sudden muscle weakness during waking hours, or breathing interruptions during sleep suggest underlying neurological conditions that need immediate medical evaluation. The connection between sleep paralysis and other sleep disorders reveals why professional diagnosis becomes crucial for effective treatment. Sleep apnea frequently accompanies sleep paralysis, as breathing interruptions during sleep create the unstable sleep patterns that trigger paralysis episodes. Narcolepsy presents with sleep paralysis as one of its primary symptoms, along with excessive daytime sleepiness and sudden muscle weakness called cataplexy. Restless leg syndrome can disrupt sleep architecture enough to increase sleep paralysis frequency. Circadian rhythm disorders create the irregular sleep patterns that make sleep paralysis more likely to occur. When sleep paralysis occurs alongside these other conditions, treating the underlying sleep disorder often resolves the paralysis episodes completely. Mental health professionals play a crucial role in managing sleep paralysis episodes, particularly when they are linked to conditions like anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, or panic disorder. These psychiatric conditions increase sleep paralysis risk through their effects on sleep quality and stress hormone production. Cognitive behavioral therapy, specifically designed for sleep disorders, helps individuals develop coping strategies, challenge negative thought patterns about sleep, and reduce the anticipatory anxiety that makes episodes more frequent. Mental health professionals also provide techniques for managing the fear and distress that follow sleep paralysis episodes, preventing the development of sleep anxiety that creates cycles of worsening symptoms. Healthcare providers conduct thorough evaluations to determine the frequency and impact of sleep paralysis episodes while identifying any underlying causes. This assessment typically involves detailed questions about the symptoms experienced, sleep habits, medical history, and mental health, including any use of medications, alcohol, or illegal drugs. The doctor may also inquire about a family history of sleep paralysis to assess potential genetic predispositions. If episodes are frequent or disabling, your doctor may order a sleep study to check for sleep apnea or narcolepsy. Modern treatment options include both therapy and medication approaches tailored to the underlying causes of sleep paralysis. Cognitive behavioral therapy remains the first-line treatment, involving journaling to monitor episodes, developing personalized sleep hygiene plans, rehearsing coping techniques for paralysis, and practicing relaxation methods to reduce overall stress. Medications such as SSRIs or tricyclic antidepressants may be prescribed to regulate sleep stages or reduce REM sleep phases when episodes occur frequently. These medications work by altering neurotransmitter activity in ways that stabilize sleep architecture and reduce the likelihood of wake-sleep overlaps that trigger paralysis. Sleep specialists provide comprehensive treatment by identifying and addressing the complex factors that contribute to sleep paralysis episodes. These physicians have specialized training in sleep medicine and can provide formal diagnoses for sleep disorders that primary care doctors might miss. Sleep specialists coordinate care between different healthcare providers, ensuring that treatment for sleep paralysis integrates with management of other medical or psychiatric conditions. They also stay current with the latest research on sleep disorders and can offer access to newer treatment options that may not be widely available through general practitioners. Tracking episodes for medical consultation requires systematic documentation that provides healthcare providers with detailed information about your sleep paralysis patterns. A sleep diary should record the date and time of each episode, the duration if you can estimate it, any triggers you noticed beforehand, the specific symptoms experienced, and your sleep and wake times. Note any medications, alcohol consumption, stress levels, or changes in routine that might have influenced the episode. Healthcare providers use this information to identify patterns and triggers that inform treatment decisions. The diary also helps track improvement or worsening of symptoms over time, providing objective data about treatment effectiveness. Professional treatment approaches available in 2025 emphasize addressing underlying conditions while improving sleep hygiene and providing cognitive behavioral therapy. For individuals with comorbid psychiatric disorders, SSRIs and stimulants targeting REM regulation may be used to stabilize sleep patterns and reduce episode frequency. Healthcare providers now recognize that sleep paralysis often results from multiple contributing factors, requiring comprehensive treatment plans that address sleep disorders, mental health conditions, and lifestyle factors simultaneously. Treatment plans typically involve collaboration between sleep specialists, mental health professionals, and primary care physicians to ensure all aspects of the condition receive appropriate attention. The most effective professional interventions combine medication management with behavioral therapy approaches that teach long-term coping skills. When sleep paralysis links to conditions like narcolepsy or anxiety disorders, targeted treatment plans involving both medication and behavioral therapy provide the best outcomes. These comprehensive approaches address the neurological, psychological, and lifestyle factors that contribute to sleep paralysis, offering patients the tools they need to manage their condition effectively. Healthcare providers emphasize that seeking professional help early prevents sleep paralysis from becoming a chronic, debilitating condition that significantly impacts quality of life. Online and local sleep paralysis communities provide valuable peer support for sharing experiences and learning coping strategies from others who understand the condition. Professional treatment also includes ongoing monitoring and adjustment of treatment plans as patients respond to interventions. Regular follow-up appointments allow healthcare providers to assess treatment effectiveness, adjust medications if needed, and provide additional support as patients work to implement lifestyle changes. This ongoing relationship ensures that treatment remains effective over time and can be modified as circumstances change. The combination of professional expertise, evidence-based treatments, and ongoing support provides the foundation for successfully managing sleep paralysis episodes and preventing their recurrence. With proper medical guidance and the right treatment approach, even the most frequent and distressing episodes can be controlled, allowing you to reclaim peaceful sleep and confidence in your ability to manage this condition. Understanding sleep paralysis requires mastering 3 powerful takeaways that transform this terrifying experience into something manageable. First, recognize that your brain is simply experiencing a temporary disruption in REM sleep cycles, where consciousness returns before muscle paralysis ends. Second, practice the small movement techniques like finger twitching or controlled breathing patterns that can break you free from episodes when they occur. Third, implement consistent sleep habits, including regular bedtimes, stress management, and proper sleep environments that prevent the conditions triggering these episodes. Share your own sleep paralysis experiences in the comments below, because building community around this condition helps others realize they're not alone in facing these frightening episodes.